Hello, Crafty friends! I'm Lynn from Studio Cato, and I'm so glad you're joining me again today. Today I am trying something completely new to me. I am trying to color a floral piece with my alcohol markers. I mentioned in yesterday's video that I am not at all an expert when it comes to alcohol markers, but I've been practicing with them a lot and trying to find some nice color combinations in my stash. Now I want to point out right off the bat that this coloring took me over an hour. I think I spent an hour and 15 minutes just on coloring this piece. Now when I mention how long something took me to make, I'm not complaining at all, especially when I'm talking about coloring, because I'd rather spend my entire day coloring. So I'm not complaining that it took me so long. I learned a lot of things, I had a lot of fun with it, and I think the end product was totally worth it. I'm just letting you know, because sometimes these videos make it look like I don't spend any time at all on a card, and that's certainly not true. The coloring alone took me an hour and 15 minutes, and to finish the entire card, after the coloring was done, I spent another 30 minutes in my craft room. Now, what did I actually do to make this card? I started out by stamping this large floral stamp onto Clairefontaine DCP 250 GSM cardstock with Memento Tuxedo black ink, which is a great ink for alcohol markers. I stamped it with my Misty, of course, because it's such a large image, and that always makes it perfect. And this stamp is the Thanks Bunches stamp set by Crafty Meraki, and other than my coloring medium, I am using very limited supplies. I'm using 2 inks in total on this card, and I'm using, obviously, my alcohol markers, and I'm using 1 stamp set. I think I'm using 2 different kinds of paper, but one is only a strip, so I'm not sure if that counts. But yeah, so 2 kinds of paper, 2 kinds of ink, and 1 stamp set. And this design is certainly something that you can do with any stamp in your stash. But I like this stamp set because it comes with a lot of sentiments, and I will use those for my design as well. And of course, the large floral is amazing. This was designed by Alex Siberia. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but she's one of my favorite designers, and her florals are always amazing. Now for the coloring, I am not at all an alcohol marker expert. I am still practicing a lot, but what I found works for me is try to get lots of contrast. Even if your coloring is not perfect, it will look impressive because you have a large contrast between your darks and your lights. And whenever I'm working with my markers, I always like to figure out my color choices beforehand. I think that's the most difficult thing to do when working with markers, is figuring out which colors blend nicely together and which combinations work for you. So I always spend some time before I start coloring. I think I spent 20 minutes just on this, figuring out my marker choices and swatching them out and making sure I like them together. Another important thing is the paper you use. This is by no means a specialty marker paper, it's laser printing paper. It's not really meant for crafting, but it works for me. I'll have it listed in the description below. It's the Clairefontaine DCP 250 GSM cardstock, and it's great for ink blending because, for markers, I mean, because it takes the layers really well. So I can layer a couple of layers on top of each other and not have to worry about bleeding too much. I always go from dark to light when I'm coloring, but I also layer more layers on top of each other. Sometimes I add more dark, sometimes I add more lights, just to make sure my blend is smooth, or as smooth as I can get it at least. Now I'm going to cut that floral piece down a little bit, and that means I need an additional border on my card. And I'm stamping that with the friend stamp that is included in this stamp set. I like making patterns out of my sentiment stamps that stretches your supplies, and it's a really fun look. I really like it. I'm just using 1 stamp this time, but I've done this with multiple sentiments as well. That's a fun look too, but I usually do that when I have a little bit more space to work with. And I stamp it at a diagonal in Distress Oxide inks. I use the Pumice ink because that gives a really nice glow when you add it to white cardstock, and I stamped it at a diagonal because it's less noticeable when you screw that up. I glued that on my card base already, and then I wanted an additional border to set that floral panel apart a little bit more. And I wanted to use mirror cardstock for that, but I wasn't sure about which color to use. And I have this a lot, not sure which color to use. So whenever that happens, I cut multiple pieces and I choose by putting them on my card. That usually helps me decide. So I decided on the green strip over the blue strip, because I really like the greens in the floral panel as well. So I just adhered that to the back of that panel, and then I can adhere 6 additional pieces to the back of that panel as well to prop it up and give some nice sturdy dimension to it. I'm adhering everything together with the Barely Art Precision Craft glue, and then I can also add a lot of gems to this card. These are the Meraki Sparkle Emerald gems by Crafty Meraki. They just came out with a lot of gems and they are super high quality, and the colors are all gorgeous. The gorgeous are all colors too. I'm sorry, I'm having a lot of trouble talking today. Anyway, adding those gems with a jewel picker and some Barely Art Precision Craft glue. Now you can absolutely add a sentiment to this card. There's definitely the space for it. But I like a lot of cards without sentiments, and I also like that friends border enough as a sentiment. I like my stash to be full of cards that I can send on any occasion. That's usually what I prefer, but you obviously can add a sentiment strip to that, or even a die-cut sentiment. It would look really good. Now I'm folding a matching envelope with my We Are Memory Keepers 123 punch board out of Clairefontaine DCP 250 GSM cardstock. And yes, this is quite heavy cardstock for an envelope. You definitely don't need this. This is all I have in my stash of nice white cardstocks. So that's what I'm using, but I definitely will look into getting a lower weight of this, or a lighter weight of this. Lower weight. This voiceover is going really well, you guys. Okay, now the easiest thing to do when you have a large stamp on your card is to use that same stamp on your envelope. And I did that. I used the same Distress Oxide Pumice Stone ink to add this to my white envelope. Again, I really like the effect of Pumice Stone Distress Oxide on white cardstock. It just seems to glow. It has a really nice effect. So that's all I did to the envelope, and I really like how that card turned out. I'm pretty proud of my coloring in this one. For my first floral piece with alcohol markers, I think it looks pretty good. And I really love this stamp set. Again, the sentiments are gorgeous, and of course that floral bouquet is just so pretty. Alex Siberia is one of my favorite designers, and I'm in love with this stamp set. I hope you like it too. I hope you like the card and the video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up on the video and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to read them. And of course, you can also subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.